This is a topic that I think everybody is talking about right now, but not everybody understands. Is that fair to say, Jason?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I just see a show of hands? Who knows what an NFT is here? Oh, that's pretty good. Oh,
But really,
okay.
no. Let's get it.
Can we have Baron? Maybe you could start for us. Just break down what the hell is an NFT for people who have no idea what it is.
I learned Bitcoin by Chuck E. Cheese token, so y'all may not like my explanation, but non-fungible token is the way I look at it is it's your data, it's your receipt, right? Whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's insurance, whether it's gambling, right? There's a receipt and a protocol like on a smart contract that allows you to have direct access to whatever that product or whatever that, value proposition is.
Jason, why are we seeing leagues like the NFL get so involved in the NFT space? I know you at DraftKings, you guys are partnering with the NFL for this weekend and also for next season. I mean, what is going on?
Well, I think it's two things. One, I think they see it as a revenue opportunity, and second, and I don't want to speak for them, so I'm just guessing based on best of my knowledge. Second, I think they see it as an important way to engage a very fast-growing segment of their fans that more and more interested in these types of things.
Can you talk about the partnership that you have with the NFL and sort of how it's working and how fans are getting engaged with the NFTs?
Well, our partnership's with the NFLPA, and basically what we did is we created a partnership where we would have NFT-based fantasy games. So, for those who know regular fantasy sports, basically you have to own the NFT of the player in order to play that player in your fantasy lineup. And then you have prizes in those games, everything ranging from, cash to other types of rare NFTs. And people compete against each other, and it's very similar to a traditional fantasy sports game.
And it's not just leagues that are getting involved, Baron. Athletes, too, are seeing an opportunity in this. Why?
I would say for us, because, we've never had the actual ownership, right, of our own rights. So our memorabilia and cards or things like that, anything we sign, we've never, owned that industry. And so I think that athletes, with their own collection of memorabilia, with their own collection of content, actually have the opportunity to realize their value within their own collection. So I think that's why athletes are getting into NFTs. The reason why we're doing it is to honor athletes. And so decentralizing the Hall of Fame to let the players decide who gets in, right? And for so long, it's been media, it's been, brands, it's been all kind of politics. So for us, it was give the keys to the athletes, let Eric Dickerson bring in his favorite running backs and create, a system where the players kind of own something that's valuable to them and they should have that right.
And Eric, we were just talking about this. I mean, do you think this is a good idea for all athletes to get involved, considering what Baron just said about ownership and, feeling like you're owning your identity, essentially?
I think it's very important because athletes have never really owned their own identity. I mean, let's go to college and pro. I mean, pretty much when you put the professional uniform on, you can't use it because it's the Ram uniform. The NFLPA has the right. They can use it. They can run commercials, but you can't. So I think it gives the athlete the power. And in college, let's use college, is that I think it's a great avenue to help the athlete make income because especially a black athlete who probably most of them come from poor families, and even a white athlete. If it gives you a way to pretty much help your mom or your grandmother, whoever, it's an income without feeling like, they always say, they're dirty or they're getting paid, but the universities have always gotten paid. So, why not the athlete get paid, the actual worker who's doing the job? So I think it's fantastic.
Well, and you have your own NFTs that you're working with young athletes on.
Right. I have an NFT that came out at SMU a couple of months ago. It launched, and it did okay. I mean, I'm not from a big university. It wasn't from say a USC or Alabama. One of the big fan bases. So it was a little bit different. And I think for me, people go back and they look at, when I played at SMU, they always say, oh man, y'all took payments, y'all took money. wasn't about that. I mean, think about that. The university was making money all these years off of us, and I think even the young athlete now, before the NFTs came around, and now the athlete has a chance to make some of the money, and I don't think it's wrong with it, nothing wrong with it, because like I said, they're doing the work. They're doing all the work, but they now they get a chance to reap some of the benefits.
And Monique, I'd love for you to jump in, because you and your husband, I mean, you've been working in sports collectibles for years, and recently sort of made the decision to be a part of the NFT craze. What was that process like? How did you know that this was the right move for you and your husband, Jim?
So for me, looking at being in this business for almost 30 years with an iconic, legendary, person, like Jim Brown, it was really about how do we take this new technology and really bring another generation into that history. So this became a bridge, a gap, a way to bridge the gap. And so not only can we take film clips, we can take art, we can take moments of history. It could be something from Jim's football career or something from his activism, like a kufi. That can be an NFT. And there are so many opportunities there for us to be able to take that history and then bring it to this young, the millennial generation. And also what we really liked was the ability to have more control in terms of what our contracts are. The smart contracts that are behind the NFTs are the real thing to look at. The NFTs are great, but the smart contract is where all the business is, because you're talking about the secondary, the third, all the various times that this NFT is sold. You want to really be able to make sure that you're reading the fine line in the smart contract, because that's where the transactions are happening time after time after time. So it's not really the first sale, it's the second and third and fourth sale in perpetuity.
Was Jim right on board, ready to jump into the NFT space?
Absolutely. We have a great partnership and trust. It's been a long time of building his brand and just really being very intentional on what we do as it relates to that legacy. And this was something that we weren't jumping in right away, because there were a lot of people, you have to do it now, the urgency. I think, but when you have something of value, it's going to hold its value. And especially now with the ability to incorporate not only the NFT or digital art, but also things that are tangible assets to drive up the market, to be able to build a community around that and have incentives.
Yeah, Baron, can you talk about that? Because I think that gets talked about too a lot with NFTs, right? It's the value, but it's also the utility. What is it that people are getting when they're buying into it? And you sort of figured that out.
Yeah, I think it's always like we struggle with, what's more valuable, community or utility. But, it's like you got to have something for people to do, right? You get these communities together. I think the utility behind the NFT is really where the value proposition is, right? So take, Jim Brown, take Eric Dickerson, take what you already do, and the teams probably pay you to walk on the field, go to the suites, do interviews. Well, that utility is an invaluable utility to a super fan, right? And so when you start thinking about the NFTs and the smart contract, the utilities that we do already, and the way that our fans want to interact with us, the way the fans want to be closer to who we are, I think that gives us like a wide range of things that we can do. He loves to golf. You want to golf. It's like you can now build your own community, your own fandom, your own experiences, and the team or whomever else can participate how they want to, right? But it's really your fan, your ecosystem of people that's buying into, the value experience that's created in the utility. And that could be in a game for NFTs. That can be in, a board game or toys or merchandise. That can be in memorabilia. And the great thing about the NFT is you don't have to sell your memorabilia, right? And so you can create digital assets based on your memorabilia, and through the NFT and the smart contract, you can now give, your fans, an allocation of shares, right? To kind of build that foundational element of what you have, for physical collectibles.
Jason, are we seeing more and more athletes like Baron, like Eric, getting into this space, and what are some of the variations in sort of how they are engaging with their fans and using their NFTs on the platforms?
I think so. I mean, athletes have been early adopters, really, and it comes back to what Baron and Eric were saying, what Monique was saying, that it's the first time that you really own your identity and you get that ongoing stream. What Monique was saying was on that second, third sale, you're getting a royalty. If you take something like a traditional trading card or anything like that, even a piece of memorabilia, you sell it, that's the one time you're getting paid for it, and then you're done. Because there's no way to track and there's no way to, true up a royalty on a secondary sale, meaning when somebody, that bought it from you goes and sells it on eBay or sells it somewhere else. With the smart contract, there's a royalty that can be coded in there, and some people choose to do it, some don't. But I think what's great for athletes and for other sorts of, recognizable celebrities who built their brands and that is their IP, is that they don't have to, continually give that away for free after the first transaction. They can continue to get a piece of it, much in the same way a TV show creator or anything like that would get royalties when, TV shows are syndicated or other sorts of things. So it's a way to actually track, and without them having to do anything, it's passive income. Continue to get, really a lifetime annuity stream. And when you think about that stacking on top of each other, it's the same as having any investment. You build a portfolio up, and then you get this lifetime annuity stream from it. There's never been anything like it.
Who is doing it right?
Everybody on this panel?
Yeah, I'm curious. Just like who do you think is a good model for sort of how it's done and how it's done right?
Well, I think that there's a lot of different models that are working, so it's hard to point to one person or one company. They have different uses. There's ones that are more art than anything else. There's profile picture-based NFTs. There's game-based NFTs, like what we're doing with the NFL Players Association and the fantasy games. There's NFTs that allow you access to communities, like Baron was talking about, such as private Discord channels. There's so many different things, and what's nice is you can tailor it to a specific segment of fans that wants a particular thing. And you could use the same, basic piece of memorabilia, as Baron was saying. You could say this version has this version has that. So it allows you to cater to a wide variety of audiences.
Baron, is it something that all athletes should be plugged into?
Absolutely. I think, I do believe it's the future. If you think about like all of your transactions, even like my little Apple Pay on the phone, like some places don't accept it, but most places do, right? And the credit card, everything is like your phone. And the way I look at it is athletes need to own your own ecosystem, right? So if you don't own your phone, and Instagram own all your pictures, Snapchat owns all of your snaps, right? Facebook owns all of your data, right? There is an opportunity for you to take your data, your information, hold it yourself, and then relicense that out. So I think when you think about it in that form, the athlete, the brand, the team, right? It's a real partnership, right? So every athlete should have an NFT that has their personal data, right? And their information and their collectibles, because this space is going to continue to grow. And I think that the value proposition that you create is by owning your own stuff.
Eric, given all of that, how do you think this is going to change the game and change leagues and sort of change how athletes move about their own professional careers?
Well, I say for college, in instance, I think it helps college a lot, because it goes back to the old indentured servant feeling, almost, that you work for us and you can't make anything off of what you've done. I think it will change a lot. It's almost like, think about the cell phone. When the cell phone first came out, well, it was kind of cool, but it wasn't real popular at first. But then all of a sudden, when you got the smartphone, where you could do everything, you could look up pictures, you could look up Google, like wow, that changed everything. I mean, I don't think you'll find anyone without a smartphone. I mean, even I say the person who don't even know how to work a phone, they know how to work a phone. So I just believe that is the way of the future. I think it's going to get bigger and bigger. And I just always think about college, because think about these kids, they don't have money, and they don't have an income. It's not like a job, but it is a job, because when you play a sport, I use my sport, football. You try to play football and go to class. That's very difficult. And most all the time, pretty much, most universities want you, especially the big powerhouses, they want you to play football. You know, not to go to school, not to go to class. Hate to say it, not even go to class, because they're gonna try to get you through. So I just believe that for an athlete, and an athlete that thinks that one day that they're gonna play professional football, or if it's basketball, you know, or something like that, you know, that's not everyone's path. It's not. I mean, I told you the story in the back where I did a thing where it was 20 athletes, and they were the top athletes. They call them blue chippers. And there was 20 of them. And I said, so guys, let me ask you a question. How many of you guys think you're going to play professional football? Everybody held their hand up. I started laughing. I said, man, how y'all guys are going to play no pro football? I said, maybe 3 of y'all are going to make it pro football, you know? And that's just the facts. I mean, it's a minute number. So you have to have a way outside of your sport. It's a sport that you put your blood, sweat, and tears into to make something off of it.
Younger athletes, Monique, even legendary athletes like your husband.
Absolutely.
How is that sort of different though for him, considering when he started off, it was collectibles, right?
Right. The thing that's really interesting about a lot of the Jim Brown was actually one of the first athletes in the NFL who had a lawyer to negotiate his contract at the time, and this is going back into the 60s. And so fortunately, he owns his rights, and a lot of the older athletes do. And you know, that's one of the advantages of that generation.
Is there a world in which NFTs don't work? I'd love to ask all of you guys. I mean, because there are still a lot of skeptical people out there. Jason?
I mean, I've been a big bull, and what I would say is the points that I hear of skepticism don't make sense to me. So we all acknowledge that there's a market for collectibles, there's a market for art, there's a market for all those sorts of things. And so people say something like, well, I can just, you know, it's just a digital image. I can just make a copy of it, and why is this worth anything? And my response would be, I can make a print of the Mona Lisa. That doesn't make it as valuable as the original Mona Lisa. Or can make a replica, a forgery of a signed ball from Eric or Baron or Jim. That doesn't make it valuable as a certified one. And the nice thing about the blockchain is you really can't forge. Unlike something like that, where you could even forge a certificate, you can't. It is recorded on a ledger. It is either real or not, and that ledger authenticates it every single time that changes hands in a transaction. So if anything, it's more valuable because you can be sure what you're buying is legitimate. Another argument I've heard, well, why is that worth anything? You know, it doesn't matter, is it doesn't look like something. And I can point to a lot of art, and I maybe am not the best judge of art, but it looks like my kid drew it, and that's worth millions of dollars. So why are those things worth something, yet an NFT, a digital version, would not be? It doesn't make any sense to me, and the arguments that I hear against it are, I think, from people that just are, you know, for whatever reason, they want something they can touch and feel. But, you know, as Eric was saying, cell phones, other innovations, there's always skepticism. I remember when people didn't think the internet was going to be big, and all sorts of companies were like, oh, we'll worry about that later, and they didn't have an internet strategy, and then many of them went out of business. You know, there's always skepticism whenever there's a shift in paradigm of how people engage as a fan or interact, you know, with goods, physical or digital. And I think this is an example where that's occurring, and at some point people get it and they get on board, or they don't. But there's clearly an audience for it, and I don't know why that audience would all of a sudden just go away.
Eric, I see you nodding, or Baron, I see you nodding, sorry.
No, I was just agreeing. No, the audience is never leaving. You know, I'm super bullish on the space because it is about your rights. Like, it's like your receipt, you know, it's your social security, it's your insurance, it's everything that you can imagine, like, all in one place. And, you know, if everybody went in their wallet or purse, you probably have like 8 insurance cards, you know, insurance in your car, all kind of things. And so the way I look at it is just really starting to secure like the box and the window around you, right, of your life. So where are your assets lies? Where are your information? Where's your data? And then where's your talent? Where are the things that are valuable for you? And so that's, you know, for me, like where I am really, really, you know, honing in on the NFT space is the medical, the things like that, because the athlete, the data around the athlete and the measured data around the athlete is not really, you know, fixing the problems at the top. And so, you know, when we start thinking about that, I think that is going to be the key.
What's the case from a fan perspective? Why would they invest in something like this, Monique?
I think that fans are looking for more, and I think that memorabilia alone, I mean, it's great to have a signed football, but if you can have an ownership of an experience, it's just a whole nother level of engagement. And I think that with the technology and with everything virtual reality and all the ways that we're being stimulated, this is the natural next way. And I see it just getting bigger. I mean, Barron has the metaverse. I mean, you literally can go inside virtually like you're touring a museum and go into NFTs and look at the various artists, I mean, and various athletes and legends. So it's just a natural transition. The thing that I find interesting is how, say for instance, the generation that followed the Jim Browns and the Joe Namaths, how that transitions. I would love to kind of see that demographic like brought into this technology a certain kind of way, because just because you have, a very popular platform doesn't necessarily mean it's your audience. And so,
Eric, what's your take on that?
Well, I mean, I believe what she's saying. When I think about like the NFTs, it's like, think about, you like trading cards, or you like to collect footballs or helmets. I mean, you want a signed football or signed helmet, then you have like, I'll take my office in my house. I have a big case with a bunch of helmets, the Pro Bowl helmets, guys I play with, but it takes up a lot of space. Think about all the space it takes up, or trading cards you got to try to keep up with. Oh, let me go, God, I just saw that card is worth $500,000. I've had that card since I was a kid. Let me go see if I can find it. Now I've got to go probably find a paper card. I think that changes everything. I mean, the digital world makes it way different. I mean, I got to say, Mia, I'm like kind of an old school guy, but it's hard to learn these new terminologies. But I think it's fantastic, and I think it's going to be the new wave of the future. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, just say, I'll take myself or my house. That wall maybe one day, when I'm not there, somebody else has it, maybe a digital wall, just a digital wall of like, I'm going to look at Jim Brown's highlights of his hair. Wow, I'm gonna look at Barry Sanders. I'm gonna look at Baron Davis right here. I don't have to have the actual helmet. I don't have to have the actual football, the actual card. I can just touch it, and it'll pop up, almost like futuristic. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be the new wave of the future.
But you'd still approach things with skepticism, because not everything's going to be worth something, right?
Well, sports.
Right?
I would say sports, yes, because everyone loves sport. Not everyone, but most people love sports. I mean, think about it. When you think about let's take the Super Bowl for instance. Yeah. You have millions of people come in town to watch one game. Yeah. They're spending all this money. They're spending $20,000 on a ticket. They're spending $1 million on a suite, to watch one game. So sports has been around since beginning of man, when the Romans started. They started the Olympics, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and more expensive and more expensive. So I don't think it's going anywhere. I mean, because athletes are like superstars. They make them like rock stars now, because of the internet, Instagram, Facebook, even like DraftKings. I mean, the guys, you're my fantasy league. I met a guy the other night, yesterday, said that you won me my fantasy league in 1989. I didn't know they had fantasy league in 1989. So, I think things just change.
Jason?
Yeah, one other comment on that too. I think that the thing people have to remember also is, just like anything, there's a market here. Markets go up and down. Stocks go up and down. Every market goes up and down. Trading cards, all this stuff. So just because something might be up or down in a given period of time doesn't mean that there's not long-term value creation there. That's just how markets work. And not every single thing will be worth something, and not every single thing will go up in value, but that doesn't make the category as a whole not a good category. And I think that too often people point to, oh, look, that thing just tanked. Whole space isn't worth anything, and that's just nonsense.
So where does it go next?
I think the big next step, and it's already been starting, is to add utility to it. So that's another really important point on what I think makes, Barron was talking about that, and he's been all over it, where I think this creates something that now makes it more than just a collectible. If you have access to something, if you have something that comes along with it, like with the deal we did with the NFLPA, where you can play a game with that NFT, that's very different. And I think there'll be people that use it for both purposes. One of the analogies I make, my kids love collecting Pokemon cards, and they don't know how to play the game at all. There is a game you can play with it. They have no idea. They just like collecting the cards, but there's other people that might want to use them to actually play a game. And that translates then into there's video games, and if you own certain cards or NFTs, you can play those characters in the video games. So there's so many different avenues you can go down. And I think that the more that you tie utility to these things, the more that there's long-term value creation there, because then it isn't just about being a collectible. It's I actually get something. I get some experience, some access, something by owning this thing.
Baron, can you talk about your NFT and sort of that utility that Jason was talking about?
Yeah, so the NFT we're launching is called More Than Us. It's a venture studio, and so the thought was to invest in dev shops, production studio, community managers, and this young man right here filming is a genius. I just want y'all to know he built our own metaverse from scratch, and the goal was to create, you know, this Louvre of sports museums where the athletes own their own content, where they own the museum, and no longer can corporate brands just, you know, have a piece of the game. They would have to pay their way in, right? And so the storytelling, right, the collaborations with NFTs, the games, they will all exist in what we call history of the game. And so history of the game of basketball is, you know, our first drop out of MTU. So the Genesis is MTU, and then history of the game, which we're launching All-Star Weekend. But we'll have like 4,000 or 5,000 people running around with avatars. You know, the goal is to go to Eric Dickerson, you know, statue, go down into your locker, see all your content, and play to earn and earn the right to have a locker in your locker room, right? And there are 12 fans. You have 12 fans, right, who love you so much that wants to, you know, that collects all your stuff anyway, that they will want to be a part of this experience. And so for us, it's take this museum approach where people love to go to the museums, build a metaverse where people can display their NFTs, you know, build a world where, whether you're on Solana, Cardano, Ethereum, Avalanche, like your NFTs have a place, you know, your own NFT metaverse world have a place in our world. And so with that, it's all about the legends and like giving flowers. We live in an era of giving flowers. And so we want to accelerate this process of people getting into the Hall of Fame, the people who haven't gotten into the Hall of Fame having their own Hall of Fame where they can induct the people that they care about.
Eric, what do you think?
I'm sorry?
What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's great. I heard you say something earlier that I didn't understand. It's so basically with the Hall of Fame, I said Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So y'all control that part of it? See, now, that's great because, you know, I'm gonna use the Hall of Fame for the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
NFL Hall of Fame, to me, sometimes is not always what the players think. And
right.
See,
right.
We speak the same. Because players know who can play, and players know who can't play.
Yeah.
And some guys, you've seen guys go in the Hall of Fame, you're like,
what's the requirements?
Yeah, what he doing in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
I mean, and I think that's fantastic because I think about the NFL Hall of Fame. Well, sometimes it's popularity. It's you're on TV, so and not saying he's a bad player. Some are good players, not great players. And you know this as well as I do. It's a difference. It's the same thing in business. It's great businessmen and it's good businessmen. And the same thing in the NFL. It's great players and it's players who, like, they were just good. And I like you. I wish that we could do it like that.
You will be. We're gonna give it to you.
But see,
we're gonna hand it to you.
That's what we need because for the NFL, it's a whole different life. You know, it's a lot of guys that get in like, you don't deserve that.
It's a new opportunity. Before we close out, I wanted to have you guys just comment on, for fans, casual sports fans, how should they get into the NFT space? How should they start thinking about it if they're a Baron Davis fan, if they're an Eric Robinson fan? Where do they start?
Well,
Dickerson.
I'll tell you what I think, and I don't know a lot, but I started to learn about the NFT. I have, just like you got your guy that's really smart, you have to have someone that knows that business. It's like when you get into a business, you don't put your money into something you don't know. People do that and it fails. If you don't know what you're doing, you need to know that business. Teach me about this business. Try to learn me everything you possibly can about what's the upside, what's the downside, so I don't panic. I think that's the most important thing when you're gonna try to get into something like NFTs or whatever you get into, but especially this space because it's so new.
Yeah.
You know, you saw some of the NFTs sold for millions of dollars. You know, now will they stay at the $8 million, $5 million? Who knows? I mean, they may go down, they're gonna go up, just like he said about the stock market. It goes up and down. But I think the most important thing is have someone to actually teach you about NFT and really, so you'll know what you're getting yourself into.
I would add on to that to really, as I said earlier, read up and learn about smart contracts so that when you buy something, you understand behind the scenes, like what's coming back to you and the platform that is hosting it. I say definitely look at whatever you're looking to buy, what the marketing is around it, what the audience is for it, and whether it's something that has value that is, you know, that I think that would hold its own. So it's for me, it's always about value and value that's timeless. As you know, my husband's career has been, it's like it's got to match that.
Yeah.
So,
Jason?
I think the best way to get into NFTs is go to marketplace.draftkings.com.
A plug.
yeah,
A plug.
good.
Wow.
Good. Yeah, shameless.
That's it.
We have all kinds of great athletes there. No, but I agree with Eric. I think that the best way is to find somebody who's actually into it and knows how it works, knows what values, what things are valued at or should be valued at. Especially if you're looking at it as an investment, if you're just buying stuff that we sell NFTs as cheap as like a few dollars on our marketplace. So if you're just buying something because you're a fan, it's fun. But if you're going to spend real money on it, I think it's important to talk to people and make sure that you're getting it at the right price.
Yeah. Baron, you want to close us out?
What was that?
Oh.
What was that again? The marketplace?
Another plug.
Marketplace.draftkings.com.
Okay, got it. All right, my cheap plug is buy the MTU. Buy the MTU NFT. No, I say that. I say that because I kind of like trust what we're building, right? And you buy the MTU NFT, you're a part of our collective. You can launch stuff, you'll learn. We have e-learning, kind of like it's like TEDx or master class for like the culture for the hood, for sports, and we kind of translate, in real life, what NFTs are, how we can activate, and then you get into MTU, you get a whole bunch of like free drops in NFTs, so you learn.
That's awesome. Lots of opportunities here. Guys, thank you so much, Monique. Thank you all so much, and thank you guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah.